We are consuming more than any generation in history and creating a lot less than we think. So this isn't going to be like an anti-internet rant. I just think we need to change how we use the internet. So what I want to take into 2026 is to create more than I consume, which is not a new idea, but it's one I think you should consider too. I love content, genuinely. Like, I consume an embarrassing amount of dachshund videos. I'm not ashamed. I think they're harmless, they're cute, and it's just a little bit of dopamine, which we all need sometimes. But I think that's kind of the problem on a number of levels, is that you're consuming other people's creativity, other people's content, and that's leaving a lot less room for your own. But also, to get a bit deeper, our time on earth is very, very limited, and that's how you want to spend it? Really? This isn't just a me problem. I've got some statistics here I'm going to read you. So according to Ofcom, adults spend around 4.5 hours online every single day. There's a figure from the report, which I'll link down below, that particularly gets me, and it is that fewer people say they feel freer online than offline. If we are online more than ever, but we feel less free, then that feels pretty backwards to me. We consume other people's aesthetics, opinions, languages, ideas before we've even really had a chance to form our own. And I don't know, like, a lot of the time when I sit down with the intention of creating something, my brain either feels like very busy or very, very blank. And I don't think this has anything to do with a lack of talent or intelligence on anyone's part. I honestly think it's noise. So the solution isn't to go on a rampage and delete all of your social media, but it is to be more mindful about what you consume through an information diet. Before you consume something, ask, is this likely to teach me anything? Is it likely to inspire me to do something? Or is it likely to help me rest? And if you're doom scrolling, the answer is probably no. In fact, I know it's no. I think in 2026, and any year, because it should be a continuous process, is I want to doom scroll less, read more, and gain more depth of knowledge. The less control you have over the information that you take in, the less control you have over your output. Overconsumption is also no secret. Like, we live in a society, in a world where we take more from it than we give back to it. I do. I definitely do. You know, we collect content, ideas, we even collect things. We don't really turn it into anything. And yeah, life is busy. We remember some of what we consume. You know, I can talk about some films, I can talk about some books that I've read, I can remember some meals I've had, and I can remember some places that I've went. But the people you leave behind are more likely to remember the things that you've made and the way you've made them feel. So your output is really your trace, and currently, I speak for myself here, I don't know what my output and what my trace would be. So, food for thought. In 2025, we also add AI into the mix. I don't know how I feel about AI. It's probably the same way I feel about all technology, is that if we can find a way to use it ethically, fine. I think it should be regulated. I think there's probably a lot of bad actors. The technology itself isn't inherently bad, but its impact on the world and other things can be. However, I feel if people are using it, then it shouldn't, like, it should be a tool, right? It shouldn't replace your creativity, your originality, your research, and the human perspective that you bring to a project cannot be replaced by ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. I actually went to a talk recently at my own university where a lecturer was talking about how the use of AI is leading to the homogenization of culture and language. This genuinely made me think about how we use technology, but also how we consume, because that is a really scary thought to me, that we are one day just going to end up in this really copy-paste, homogenized culture. That's not what I want. I don't know about other people, but I don't want that. I love originality. I love what perspectives people bring to things. Technology is great, but I love people. I think the scariest part of all is that if you are skipping the thinking, the skill building, the creativity that human output needs, then mediocrity is going to be our default output as human beings. And we don't like mediocrity. Creating by its nature should feel uncomfortable, because you have to be stuck, you have to be really bad at things, you have to feel the struggle, I think, in order to get better at something. I think unfortunately in life and in getting good at something, you have to let things flop sometimes. But in making those mistakes, in flopping, that's where the learning is coming from. So real learning happens when you make those mistakes, and you can't really make those mistakes if all you are doing is consuming things. Mistakes come from trying, and trying, unfortunately, is the whole point, and it's the whole process. You try a bit harder, you keep on trying, and one day you see results, hopefully. I don't think consuming is ever really going to be the entire answer to exceptional output. I just don't think that it is. So what does it mean to create? I think people can get quite intimidated when people say you should be creative and create things, because that evokes images of standing at an easel with a paintbrush, or writing songs or poetry or anything like that, and I don't think it has to be. It could be writing blog posts or essays. You know, you're on social media anyway, so why not make social media posts? It's such a process to learn, and it's very continuous as well, learning how to write good captions, learning the craft of social media, learning how to make reels and being in front of a camera. It's weird, it's not natural, and that's the kind of discomfort that I think really helps people. I think if you are going to be consuming, especially content or digital works or even books, why not keep a journal about all the things you're consuming? Because if you're consuming but you're able to form opinions about what you're consuming, I think that really helps you to understand the world around you. And yeah, it's not passive anymore, because you're putting output to your input. Like, I think that's a great idea. I think an easy one, and one that's probably a little bit underutilized, is also creating a LinkedIn post. LinkedIn is like the least serious social media ever. So no one's cool on LinkedIn. There's no cringe associated really. Just have a thought, form the thought and post it. I know that everyone has a podcast as well, but why not you? You can make a podcast. All you really need is like the voice notes app on your phone and somewhere to upload it to. It could be a YouTube channel. Like, I think podcasting can be such a valuable output. I'll put some I like here if anyone wants to explore it. And one thing I always do is I try and, like, I'm not very good at it, but I'll always write like, what have I learned from this podcast? And is there anything I can action in my life? Those are just some ideas, and there's so much you can create and put out into the world. And I think there's also an element of it that comes down to what experiences that you look for in your own life. One thing that I love doing is going to galleries and museums. I think that's a fantastic use of time, and if you're in the UK or even Washington, random, but if you're in those places or you're somewhere, you'll be able to find free museums, free galleries. So yeah, it's free. Like, what have you got to lose? So apparently people who travel or study abroad are more creative. I think there's probably reasons for this, like novelty helps you to form new neural connections. And I know whenever I travel, I always seem to write more. When I was in the US and even in Italy a few months ago, I would always have a notepad in my bag, big, small, even scraps of paper, because I just feel like there's so many new things to absorb. Your brain is trying to deal with so many things. Like, yeah, I always feel more creative and also a lot happier when I'm maybe not even traveling, but certainly doing new things. I think new places create new thoughts, and novelty helps form new neural pathways, in my opinion. But I know slow living is very popular at the moment, and our world is so fast. So I was trying to think of what would I do in a slower world, and honestly I would learn to bake. I would love to learn to bake. So you're certainly consuming other people's knowledge, but you are producing an output from it by its very nature. Same with cooking. I actually love cooking. I love trying new recipes, and that could be something for you to try. For my fellow cocktail lovers out there, why not try a new cocktail recipe? And you could even try and create your own. And you could let me know, because I think cocktails are getting very, very boring at the moment. I want to say that choices we make out of convenience aren't evil choices. Like, if you haven't had the time to, you know, prepare a packed lunch for work and you grab a meal deal, there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't, but it's kind of like making something, especially with your hands, for some reason, changes how your brain works over time. And it just feels so much more satisfying when you've made a good lunch, you know, or you've written a good story, or you make a good social media post. I think part of this, because, you know, our world is so busy, is that putting time aside to do whatever your creative thing of choice is, or to learn something new or build new skills, is so important. Because I know, like, I'm doing a master's degree at the moment, and I know that I have so much else I should be doing right now, but I thought, what a great way to practice what you preach is to set that time aside, treat it like a commitment, and see what comes out the other side. I also think planning your projects, if you're a very organised person, you know, setting goals and accomplishing them is something that I really enjoy. And if you're like me, then treating your creative projects like that can be helpful. It can also be a hindrance though, because it should be fun, it should help you grow. So if it doesn't feel like that, you know, stop. I think all of this is to say that motivation is very unreliable. I know that my motivation can swing rapidly from like week to week, but if you have systems in place and you're quite disciplined with them, I think that can certainly help. I want to move into the more kind of serious part of this, which is to say that overconsumption is something that we all probably do, but that it isn't a neutral choice. You know, if you're thinking about physical overconsumption, yeah, absolutely, but even digitally, there is growing concern surrounding things like digital dementia. Digital dementia occurs when we are outsourcing things like memory, concentration and focus to digital devices. All of this is because the brain adapts to what we repeatedly do, which, if any of you know, is sort of neuroplasticity. When we are excessively consuming digital output, then we are weakening pathways for concentration and recall in our brains. So during COVID, for example, which, if you know, no judgment here, I was certainly on my phone a lot. However, research found that increased digital consumption, which was observed during this period, led to higher rates of anxiety and depression. I think there's probably 2 points to make on that. We were on social media. I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but the news was continuously horrific. It was always negative and awful. I don't think that helped on the anxiety and depression front. But I think even if you just look at the nature of social media particularly, you know, constant notifications they make you, it just feels so urgent, and like there's a good bit of, you know, fear of missing out involved there. I know whenever I'm on social media, I'm always like, oh, these people have achieved so much and like, look at me. Eek. Then if you're also thinking about the impact that digital devices and social media have on our sleep, like it's no wonder that they believe there's a correlation between mental health and social media and digital consumption. Horrible to think how constantly online we are, but that we're really not any better off for it. But the point of the video is not to say that you should never consume anything, but that you should be more mindful about your information diet and consuming things of value. I know for me what I consider valuable is current affairs resources, the news. I love to watch plays, I read books. I do love a good scroll on social media, but I find the content that I remember is more creative and informative content and not, like I can't really tell you any specific dachshund content that I've consumed. I know it's there, I just can't really remember it. I think that's because it's in my short-term memory, so it's not of value to me at all. The dopamine's good, but long-term not really. I also love consuming good food. I still talk about meals that I've had. I love recommending restaurants to people. I also love wine, so like I'll remember wine that I've had, I remember vineyards I've visited. That feels like valuable consumption to me, although everything in moderation, everyone. But overconsumption of things that aren't valuable is what I would consider clutter. And clutter, you know, tidy space, tidy mind. If you're collecting and curating things, that's very much one thing, but clutter really isn't a great thing at all. I also think about when we think about the content we consume to rest, I think we should be clearer about drawing the line between content that numbs us and content that rests us, and I think my dog videos are the former, and all the valuable content that I know is out there is definitely the latter. So I think in 2026 I want to make a more conscious effort to seek out novelty, essentially. What I mean by that is that I want to see new places, I want to try new things. It might not mean going on a major world tour, but even just like, I live in a very beautiful country, I'm from a very beautiful country, why not explore? And trying new things as well, so like pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. Yeah, failing. I think failing is so important, even though it feels horrible. I think it matters so much for, yeah, what you put out there. I think it matters. I think protecting my creative space and sort of scheduling in time, being more intentional about creating things is so important, and creating more than I consume. So I don't think that'll ever be perfect, but I think it does need to be intentional. Because let me ask you, if you created just 10% more than you consumed last year, what do you think would happen? That is the question I'm taking into this year. So I hope this video has been useful. I hope that I have even slightly inspired you to try creating something this year, and I hope you all have a beautiful 2026. Thank you for watching, and please do follow if you aren't already. Bye!